Hi, everyone. Welcome to part two of the Primo Report series. Today, we're going to see how Primo does when it's given a lot more context and hopefully get a really great sense of how specific the report is in this type of query. So, the query that we're looking at today, we tried to simulate the facts of a matter and we specified the following to Primo. So, we said that a bank extended a large credit facility to a business owned by a married couple, and this loan was secured by a guarantee provided by the wife. The husband then later alleges that his signature was forged, and as a result, the guarantee should be invalidated. Finally, we ask Primo a very specific question. We ask, is the husband's claim likely to succeed? So let's go and see how Primo responds to this context and this question. Okay, so here we can see the output from the query that we input to Primo. It is starting with an executive summary highlighting that a spousal or married couple, rather married in community of property, generally does require the other spouse's consent to bind themselves as surety. However, this requirement does not apply if the surety is furnished in the ordinary course of business. We can see here that it is drawing these principles first from the Matrimonial Property Act. As always, this is our citation cabinet. And we can see here that in this case, Primo has only identified one act in line with the fact that this is a more specific contextualized query. Looking at the substance, Primo starts by decomposing the query into three key issues that it needs to address based on the information that we've provided. And then it begins an analysis of the legislative framework. So, looking at things like the default capacity and consent, the formality for certain consents, the protection of bona fide third parties, and the suing of a joint estate. And then finally, Primo once again notes that the statutory regime includes an ordinary course of business carve out or exception, and the courts have consistently applied this exception to business sureties and guarantees. We then see Primo shift into its analysis of case law. So it's identified a couple cases here, Stradum, Zilwa, etc. And importantly, each of these cases have been identified or contextualized rather in what we've asked. Again, our source cabinet, so we can get a closer insight into what Stradum was about. And here we can see that the reason Stradum was even identified was because it deals with business guarantees and the ordinary course of business exception. Zilwa dealing with business owners, and Investec because it deals with forged spousal consent. So each of these cases have been contextualized in terms of its relevance of what we've asked and the facts we've given. And then finally, we actually see Primo applying this law more specifically because we asked, is the husband's claim likely to succeed? And so here Primo is outlining